The moon. It feels like it's suddenly front and center again, doesn't it?
It really does.
Especially this intense race, U.S., China, heading for the lunar South Pole. And it's all about water. Water ice, specifically.
That's the big prize, yes.
So if you're following, the major shifts in space exploration, what this could all mean, well, understanding this lunar water situation seems pretty crucial.
Absolutely critical. We've definitely moved past the sort of flag-planting missions of Apollo.
Right.
The real goal now is thinking about permanence, setting up shop, essentially. And for that, you need local resources.
And water is top of the list.
It's the linchpin, not just for drinking, obviously, but you can split it into hydrogen and oxygen. That's breathable air and, crucially, rocket fuel.
Ah, rocket fueled. Right. So you could potentially refuel missions from the moon.
That's the long-term vision. But recent research, particularly coming out of China, is giving us a, let's say, more realistic picture of what's actually there.
Yeah.
And the challenges in getting it.
Okay, so the South Pole, why there? What's so special about that spot?
It's all about the shadows. You have these deep craters near the poles where the crater floor hasn't seen direct sunlight in, well, maybe billions of years.
Billions. Wow.
Yeah, so they act like incredibly cold traps. Any water molecules or other volatiles that land in there just get stuck, frozen solid.
And that was just a theory until fairly recently.
Pretty much. The big confirmation came in 2018. That's when SYISR, using NASA data from an instrument on India's Chandrayaan-1.
Right, I remember that. The moon mineralogy mapper.
Exactly. That data definitively showed water ice signatures at the poles. That discovery really opened the floodgates, thinking-wise, about settlements being, actually possible.
It felt like a game changer. Suddenly, lunar bases seemed less like science fiction.
It was a huge moment, no doubt. It proved the resource existed. But, and this is the key thing now, the question shifted to how much is there, what form is it in, and crucially, how easy is it to get to and extract?
Okay, the practicalities.
Exactly. That's where the current research is focused.
And that leads us to China's big guns on the ground, right?
Huh.
FAST and SYISR.
Yeah, the 500-meter aperture spherical telescope FAST and the Sanya Incoherent Scatter Radar, SYISR. These are powerful tools.
What makes them so suited for this kind of lunar investigation from Earth?
Well, FAST is, it's the biggest single-dish radio telescope in the world. Its sensitivity is just unparalleled for scanning large areas like the moon's surface.
Okay.
And SYISR complements that perfectly. It uses radar to actually probe beneath the surface and with really remarkable resolution.
So one looks broadly, the other looks deeper.
Kind of. Together they give us a much more detailed, almost layered view of what the lunar soil, the regolith, is actually made of. The findings were published in Science Bulletin highlighting these capabilities.
So what have they actually found with this tag team approach? What's the news on the water ice?
Okay, so the initial data, mainly from FAST, looking at the top, say, 10 meters or about 33 feet, it suggests that the concentration of water ice mixed in with the soil is maybe around 6%.
6%? Is that good? Bad? How does that number land?
Well, it's significant that it's there, of course, but 6% is, well, it's quite low if you're thinking about mining operations.
Right.
Imagine how much lunar soil you'd need to dig up, heat, process, just to get a usable amount of water. We're talking tons and tons of material. That ramps up the energy needed, the complexity, the cost.
It really changes the calculation for setting up a base, doesn't it?
Profoundly. It impacts everything from landing site selection to the kind of infrastructure you'd need.
How does this square with maybe the initial excitement after that 2018 discovery? Did people think it would be richer?
That's where the scientific conversation is right now. The 2018 finding confirmed presence. This newer data starts to define the distribution. It suggests the ice might be, finely mixed in like frost or small crystals in the soil, rather than thick, easily accessible sheets right near the surface.
So less like a frozen lake, more like damp permafrost.
That's probably a better analogy, yeah. And Shwiley himself, the scientist behind the 2018 discovery, has actually expressed some skepticism. He's questioned whether the moon, based on what we know now, can realistically supply enough water for a large, thirsty settlement.
Interesting. So the guy who found it is urging caution.
He's highlighting the challenges, yes. Now, the caveat is maybe there are richer deposits deeper down or concentrated in the absolute coldest parts of those permanently shadowed craters. We just don't know for sure yet.
So the picture is still kind of fuzzy.
It is. And that uncertainty is exactly what China's next big lunar mission, Chang'e 7, is designed to tackle.
Ah, Okay, so Chang'e 7 is going there to check this out directly.
Exactly. It's planned to land at the South Pole and do on-site investigations. Try to measure the quantity, figure out the physical state. Is it fine crystals? Is it chunks? Get some ground truth.
That sounds absolutely vital then. We need boots, or rather robotic probes, on the ground to really know.
Precisely. It really underscores how crucial these technological advancements are. Without the kind of data FAST and SYISR are providing, even from Earth, and then the follow-up from missions like Chang'e 7, well, we'd be planning these incredibly expensive lunar missions somewhat blind.
You need that high-resolution mapping, especially for those tricky polar regions.
Absolutely. It's not just about finding the water. It's about understanding the terrain, finding safe landing spots, identifying locations where the resources are actually accessible. It's mission planning 101, but for the moon.
So this improvement in radar, in data analysis, it feels like a genuine leap forward in our ability to actually use the moon, not just visit.
It really is. We're moving from, we think there's water, to, okay, here's where it likely is, here's roughly how much, and here are the challenges in getting it. That's practical information.
And all of this feeds directly into that bigger dream or maybe plan of lunar colonization, right? These findings are shaping how that might actually happen.
Directly. This research equips space agencies, not just China's, but NASA's, with its Artemis program too, everyone involved. It helps them figure out how to tackle the huge challenge of keeping humans alive and working on the moon long term.
For people, say, preparing for competitive exams like the UPSC here in India, understanding this nexus of science, technology, and international competition, resource management, it feels increasingly important.
I'd agree. It touches on geopolitics, technology, resource strategy, international relations. It's a very current and complex global issue playing out 240,000 miles away.
And that potential for using lunar water ice, it really is the key to making lunar habitats more self-sufficient, isn't it? Reduces the need to constantly ship water from Earth, which is incredibly expensive.
Massively expensive. If you can source water locally on the moon, it fundamentally changes the economics and logistics of lunar exploration and settlement. Missions like Chang'e 7 are sort of stepping stones, bringing that possibility closer.
It really puts this race back to the moon in a different light. It's not just flags and footprints Mark II. It's about securing a foothold, maybe securing resources.
I think that's a fair assessment. It's becoming increasingly strategic. Having the ability to access and utilize lunar resources could be a major advantage in future space endeavors.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. We've seen big progress in mapping out where lunar water ice might be, thanks to amazing tech like FAST and SYISR.
Yep, giving us much better maps.
But there's still a lively debate, maybe even growing questions, about just how much there is and how easy it will be to actually extract.
The how much and how easy are the big unknowns.
And missions like Chang'e 7 are heading out soon to try and get some solid answers, which are vital for any real plans for lunar bases or colonization. This is definitely a space to watch, especially if you're tracking global tech trends or, preparing for comprehensive exams.
Well summarized. It highlights both the progress and the remaining very significant hurdles.
So, here's something to mull over. We know extracting this lunar water will be tough. We know the potential payoff is huge, maybe even impacting how we think about resources here on Earth eventually. How do you think actually using these lunar resources will ultimately change the game, not just for space exploration, but maybe for geopolitics and resource management back home in the coming decades?
That's the multi-trillion-dollar question, isn't it? The ripple effects could be enormous, but how they play out?
Wow.
Well, that depends on the technology we develop, the discoveries we make, and frankly, the choices we make as international players. It's a future that's still very much being written.
Definitely something to keep thinking about. We really hope this deep dive into the hunt for lunar water ice has given you some valuable insights. If you want to explore more topics shaping our future, please do like, subscribe, and feel free to leave your comments or any further questions below.
We'd love to hear your thoughts.
And for more detailed reporting on this specific story and related developments, you can check out Sustainability Times.